Edition of The Nation at 5. Zaka ready with Viewpoint.
Good evening. In a significant development, India has now formally extended an invitation to Pakistan, specifically from India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to come to India for the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting that is scheduled for early May in Goa. If Bilawal Bhutto does agree and accept this invitation and come to India, it'll be the first time that a Pakistani foreign minister has travelled to India in over a decade. This would be, yes, part of a multilateral arrangement like the SCO, but also a significant step in the indo-pak bilateral ties. We'll get to all of that in just a moment, but first, the story.
कहा कि जनाब मेरे आप बड़े भाई हैं और मुझे बड़ी शर्म आ रही है, लेकिन मजबूरी है, हमारे मामलात जो माली मामलात जो हैं आप जानते हैं, आप मुझे $1 अरब और दे दें.
You're not going to hide it. You're not going to confuse anybody anymore. People have figured it out. So my advice is, please clean up your act. Please try to be a good neighbor.
So all eyes are on whether Pakistan will accept this invitation or not. Ties between both countries have not been particularly great in the last few years. If Bilawal Bhutto does indeed accept the invitation, he will be the first Pakistan foreign minister to visit India in 12 years. Now, India's consistent position has been that any outstanding issues with Pakistan have to be resolved bilaterally and peacefully, not as part of any multilateral arrangement. But at the same time, India has made it clear that it will not compromise on issues relating to national security. So the onus really is on Pakistan to create such a conducive environment that is free of terror and violence. Now, the last time a Pakistani foreign minister was on Indian soil was in 2011 when Hina Rabbani Kar visited India as the foreign minister of Pakistan. During that visit, India and Pakistan agreed that terrorism poses a continuing threat to peace and security. Kar and the then Indian Foreign Minister S.M. Krishna had negotiated several measures to improve cross-border trade in Kashmir. They agreed to simplify travel procedures and increase the frequency of services to Jammu and Kashmir. It was also agreed to convene separate meetings of expert groups on nuclear as well as conventional confidence-building measures in Islamabad. But that bonhomie lasted barely a year, and in early 2013, things once again nosedived. But particularly in the last 8 or 9 years, it has been quite the staggering lows, as it were, in the Indo-Pak bilateral. In August of 2015, India had invited then Pakistan National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz, but his visit was called off at the very last minute after then External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj asked Sartaj Aziz not to meet members of the Hurriyat. The last Indian foreign minister to visit Pakistan was Sushma Swaraj. This was in December of 2015 for the Heart of Asia conference in Islamabad. After that, a slew of Pakistan-sponsored terror attacks, first in Pathaan in 2016, and then in Uri, and then, of course, the big one in Pulwama in 2019, basically cut off all channels of communication. And then the Modi government's decision to abrogate Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir in August of 2019 led to the suspension of trade ties and cross-border services as well. And ties have continued to remain rocky under both former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who took a hard line, and now in Shehbaz Sharif's regime as well, up until the last few weeks. More recently, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has shamed Pakistan publicly on multiple occasions for funding and propagating terror.
The question of justifying what the world regards as unacceptable should not even arise. That certainly applies to state sponsorship of cross-border terrorism. Nor can hosting Osama bin Laden and attacking a neighboring parliament serve as credentials to sermonize before this council. It is the ministers of Pakistan who will tell you how long Pakistan intends to practice terrorism. The world is not stupid, the world is not forgetful, and the world does, increasingly call out countries and organizations and people who indulge in terrorism. So my advice is, please clean up your act. Please try to be a good neighbor. Hillary Clinton was visiting Pakistan, Islamabad. And Hina Rawani Khan was a minister at that time. And I think standing next to her, Hillary Clinton actually said that if you have snakes in your backyard, you can't expect them to bite only your neighbors. Eventually, they will bite the people who keep them in the backyard. But as you know, Pakistan is not great on taking good advice, and you see what's happening there. The world today sees them as the epicenter of terrorism.
But just in the last few weeks alone, there has been a sudden and a pretty dramatic shift in tone from the incumbent Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Last week, during an interview with Dubai-based Al Arabiya TV, Sharif said that his country has learnt its lesson after 3 wars and wants to solve burning issues like Kashmir with the Indian leadership. Now, keep in mind that Sharif's comments come at a time when Pakistan is battling a crippling economic crisis. There is growing public discontent. There are hours and hours of electricity outages. And of course, to top it all, there are rising wheat and fuel prices. There are also rising instances of terror attacks. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which ended a ceasefire with Pakistan security forces last year, has been repeatedly attacking Pakistani forces in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in other provinces across the country.
We have learnt our lesson. And we want to live in peace with India, provided we are able to resolve our genuine problems. My message to the Indian leadership and Prime Minister Modi is that let's sit down on the table and have serious and sincere talks to resolve our burning issues like Kashmir, where flagrant violation of human rights are taking place day in and day out. Ready to have talks, and we are more than ready.
So you are ready for peace?
Absolutely.
So while Shehbaz Sharif may sound conciliatory, 2 caveats. One, the fact is that right after that interview, and that clip of course went viral, there was an immediate clarification from the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan saying that Kashmir is the #1 issue. Also, his foreign minister, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, has not particularly sounded any overtures of any kind to India. In fact, last year he wrote to the United Nations raking up the Kashmir issue again. He accused India of carrying out demographic changes in Kashmir and said that these measures are in violation of international laws. He also asked the United Nations to urge India to acquit Kashmiri separatist leader Yasin Malik from all charges and ensure his immediate release from prison. And then last month, he made a personal attack against Prime Minister Modi over the 2002 Gujarat riots.
Osama bin Laden is dead, but the butcher of Gujarat lives. And he is the Prime Minister of India. He was banned from entering this country until he became Prime Minister.
And despite his rants, the fact that India has invited Bilawal Bhutto for the SCO summit leaves India with the upper hand, and here's why. The overall objective of the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit is cooperation against terrorism. That's why it was founded in the first place in the early 2000s. So as the host this year, India can corner Pakistan for supporting and for harboring terrorists. Pakistan is on a sticky wicket because it desperately needs international support. Its economy is in the doldrums, it is spiraling, it needs all the help it can get. The summit will also bolster India's status as a major pan-Asian player, and it will portray India's goodwill in ensuring peace in the region. So, while this invitation must be seen in the context of a multilateral summit that is likely to take place, the foreign ministers meeting in early May and the summit itself in July, is this marking a change of what has been rather frosty and cold indo-pak ties over the last many years? Gopal Krishna Agarwal is BJP spokesperson, Sushant Sareen, senior fellow with the Observer Research Foundation, G. Parthasarathy, former diplomat, also joining us, and Dr. Saeed Elahi is a senior leader of the PMLN. Let me start with you, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Yes, the SCO charter says that all members have to attend for a summit to happen. So which means that if India is hosting the SCO summit in July this year, the Pakistan Prime Minister has to come. And for that, this preparatory meeting will have to happen where India has now formally invited the Pakistan Foreign Minister, Bilawal Bhutto. Should we necessarily see this only from that multilateral prism, or does this mark a change in Indo-Pak ties?
No, India's Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister at several points of time categorically clarified that the terrorism is one issue which we have an important consideration for Pakistan to debar from any kind of this activity. Otherwise, our relations cannot move further. Even it has been clarified that no talks without the Pakistan coming out of the activity, terrorist activities supporting of the terrorism. That stand is very clear, but we cannot at present time should look into the whole issue much more than that. Definitely, okay. I think the government has sent an invitation for further. This is an important year in the foreign policy of the India with taking up the position in the presidentship of G20 and holding of SCO. This thing, but ultimately the thing how Pakistan plays out into during the period is very important.
Okay.
Whether it's a merely lip service they want to do, or they take up any concrete. So it's too early to say or define anything either way.
Okay, let me ask Sushant Sareen. Yes, I think Gopal Krishna Agarwal is right. This is a big year for India. It's hosting the SCO, it's hosting the G20. It is in a way signaling India's arrival on the global stage. Pakistan may be a minor irritant. The fact is that this is protocol. You need to invite Bilawal Bhutto, as well as the Chinese foreign minister, mind you, for this summit. And then eventually the summit will happen in July when the heads of those two governments will come as well. So should India take the 35,000 feet view, as it were, and extend this invite purely for multilateral reasons? Or is there the risk that Mr. Bhutto, who's known for, making all kinds of comments and grandstanding, will use this platform yet again?
Zaka, really, I think we made a major mistake, and I blame my biradari of the press people also for that. We made a major mistake in SARC by reducing it to an Indo-Pak kind of a thing. And I suspect we might be doing something similar on SCO by reducing it to Indo-Pakistan. I think we have much bigger fish to fry as far as SCO is concerned than merely bother about Pakistan, whether they come or they don't come. Number one. Number two, yes, you are absolutely on the money that the invitation had to go because it's a multilateral summit, a multilateral organization. So we've sent the invitation. Now, first thing is whether there's a Pakistani delegation which is coming also or not. For example, they've not participated in certain other SCO
related meetings,
events.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether they are coming or not. One. Number two, at what level will they be represented? Will their CDA out here represent them? Will the junior foreign minister come? Will Bilawal Bhutto come? Number three, we've had other interactions. We've been sitting in the same room with the Pakistanis on a number of other platforms. But we've decided that no purpose is going to be served by engaging them. So it is entirely possible that even if he comes out here, the media might create a circus around him. But as far as the government of India is concerned, they'll probably just ignore him. That's well within the realm of possibility, unless something else has been worked out on the background. But I think the bigger dilemma will be for somebody like a Bilawal Bhutto, unless he's utterly shameless. When he comes to India, how will he be interacting with, quote unquote, the butcher of Gujarat? After having, hurled invective and vile abuse and personal abuse on the Indian Prime Minister. He has been shameless in the past, for example, with Nawaz Sharif and others. But he might do that same thing now.
Okay.
But the fact remains that, in many ways, the onus is on them. And finally, Zaka, what is in it for us to engage the Pakistanis? What is in it for us? What do we get out of it?
Okay.
All this excitement about will India talk to Pakistan or will India not talk to Pakistan? What is the incentive for us to talk to them?
No, fair enough. So I think it's entirely possible. Let's not forget, just in Samarkand a few months ago, the Pakistan Prime Minister and the Indian Prime Minister were in the same room attending the SCO summit, and there was no separate engagement outside of whatever multilateral engagements there were. So it's entirely possible that Bilawal Bhutto comes to Goa, attends this meeting. There is no meeting on the sidelines between him and the Indian Foreign Minister, and he goes back home. The problem, though, and I want to ask Dr. Saeed Elahi, is that Bilawal Bhutto has it seems very intemperate. He doesn't seem cut out to be the foreign minister of a country. I mean, look at some of the statements that he has made, referring to another head of state, quote unquote, as he said in the United Nations a few months ago, the butcher of Gujarat, referring to Narendra Modi. He also claimed that Muslims in Gujarat and Jammu and Kashmir believe that PM Modi is the main accused of inciting communal violence. In response, India has said that Pakistan is the epicenter of terror. You've heard what Dr. Jaishankar has said. The problem with Bilawal Bhutto is A, he shoots his mouth off. B, he says factually incorrect things. C, I don't think he knows how to conduct foreign relations. And most importantly, this is an election year in Pakistan as well. So politically speaking, there's every incentive for him to shoot his mouth off on Indian soil because it plays well to his domestic constituency in Pakistan.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program. I think both countries have a long history of animosity and different characters. They keep giving statements, including Bilawal Bhutto, Mr. Ajit Dole, Foreign Minister of India, even the Northern Commander of Indian Army in Kashmir. So these people have been giving different statements, provoking each other or humiliating each other. But I think the historical moment has come where the olive branches have been offered from both leaders, from both sides. And as you know very well, that Mr. Nawaz Sharif and his party always believed in good relations with India and to soften the borders. And there were many mishaps happened in between in these last many years, last 2 decades. And Mr. Nawaz Sharif also wanted to soften the borders, have good trade with India, have them good neighbors and friends also. But due to certain reasons, as you said and mentioned before, there were obstacles which are being removed now once his younger brother, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, is Prime Minister.
No, Dr. Ilahi, can I ask you two interventions there? Number one, Shehbaz Sharif's recent comment saying that we've learned our lessons from the 3 wars that we fought with India, within moments of realizing that interview has gone viral, at least that clip has gone viral, there was a clarification from the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan going again on that familiar Kashmir rant, number one. Number two, and this is a more pertinent question for you to answer, there is such an economic crisis of proportions that Pakistan has not seen in recent times. Does Mr. Sharif even have the elbow room to have a normal relationship with India?
I think you asked 2 questions. So if you give me 1 minute. First of all, Mr. Prime Minister, he had been very clear and he has accepted that yes, we had 3 wars and this mistake is not to be accepted by only Pakistan, but everyone who was part of it. This is number 1. Number 2, Kashmir is a disputed area. So anybody, even India or Pakistan, has right to claim and discuss and to come to an conclusion. So I think that will be discussed, and till the matter is resolved, everybody will raise voice from Pakistan or India or from Kashmir. So This is one thing. Number 2 is that yes, economically they are in trouble, and many countries in the world, they are facing economic crisis. But Pakistan is agrarian society, so they can cover up the problems and they can come up with the economic crisis. It happened before also 10 years back, but I think that will be managed, number 1. Number 2 is with India, that is not the only one reason, because this government headed by Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, as I told you before, always wanted to have good relations with India, with Afghanistan, with all neighboring countries.
I would just refer to what happened when Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister. The Indian Prime Minister came for his granddaughter's wedding, and within a week of that, we got the Pathaan terror attack. But anyway, I don't want to go back into history. Let me ask Ambassador Parthasarathy, as somebody who's a veteran of indo-pak relations. Of course, like I said at the top, this is a part of the protocol for foreign ministers of the SCO. You have to extend invite to all the member countries. And so this has gone as part of that multilateral arrangement. But the critical thing and the most important issue as far as India is concerned is terrorism. And the data shows that since the revocation of Article 370 in 2019, there have been 496 terrorist incidents in Jammu and Kashmir. This is in about 800 odd days. This, the comparative figure to the 800 days before the abrogation of Article 370, the number of terrorist incidents was 843, almost double of that. So there is evidence to show that the number of terror attacks in Kashmir has come down after Article 370. So is there an onus and impetus to see, okay, if terrorism is the number 1 issue and it has come down substantially in Kashmir, then can we begin to think of having a normal relationship? We don't even have high commissioners today. We don't even have full-fledged embassies in both countries today.
Well, let me make one thing very, very clear. You know, Shanghai Cooperation Organization is what we are talking to. And let's be clear, the last summit was made famous by Prime Minister's statement that about Ukraine, that this is not an era of war.
Correct.
That was addressed to President Putin alone, who was there, who was, associated with it. The relationship, the other point is you have to bear in mind domestic politics. This is a government which is a disaster domestically, Shehbaz Sharif's. It is on its way out. By the end of this year, you're going to have elections. So instead of jumping around and being very joyful about her coming, let him or her coming, because let it be clear, it can either be their foreign minister Bhutto, or more likely their Minister of State Hina Rabbani Khar, who's a former foreign minister and very powerful, will come to attend, and they will use this opportunity to ring the bell on Kashmir, this, that, what have you.
Yeah,
we have no option but to invite them because they are a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But we should make it very, very clear that to them that there will be consequences if they take up bilateral issues. They will not listen. This is a government under siege. It is a government which cannot supply electricity to the whole country for a whole day.
correct.
So what more than to divert attention? I would suggest, instead of all this dialogue as to whether we can become very friendly, blah, 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 this government is in no position to deliver. They, in my view, will be gone by the end of this year in the coming elections. So, yes, invite them, treat them with courtesy, like you would treat any other delegation, and with the same protocol courtesies. Bear in mind, if it's a Minister of State, we will have a different protocol.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I think, don't get excited. Agar aana hai to aayenge. If they have to come, they'll come. And I presume they may. But if they come, they'll come only for one reason. Hina Rabbani's Khar's statement about the Prime Minister were vicious, the comments. So I am not too excited about this. Let them come. We'll be doing, and we have no option but to invite them.
No, I get that. The problem is exactly what you said, sir, that you've hit the nail on the head. They will come, they will make theatrics around Kashmir, they will make these comments around Kashmir, some of it which will go viral as well. So Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I want to know from you as the spokesperson of the BJP, this is the risk. This is the risk that you run in inviting, whether it's Bilawal Bhutto or whether it's Hina Rabbani Khar, they will make the statements about Kashmir. Whether they are factual, whether they have any bearing in reality, that's completely different. For them, this is an election year. They will have to sound the Kashmir bugle, repeat the Kashmir rhetoric, play the same old record. Is that a risk that India has factored in?
Yeah, Zaka, definitely this is a risk, but I would also underline 4 points which are very important, and our government knows this. And it is in the knowledge of everybody, is that Pakistan had been saying something and acting differently is a very open analysis that we have. Second important is they have backstepped many times. And there are several occasions whenever there has been certain outreach to Pakistan, they have backstepped. And the third important point is that we even don't know how the civil government is in control of the things, because there are issues that army sabotage any issue, their internal problem is there. And the fourth that we also know is that the problems in the Pakistan, to divert the attention from the people of the problems which they are facing and which has become very acute at present time, they find out some scapegoat for diverting the attention of the people to come.
I'll give Sushant the final word, because what I really also want to know, and the missing piece in this entire conversation has been, what is the army's stand on this? Because ultimately, it's a call that the army will have to take, whether or not the Pakistan foreign minister should go. And if he goes, what are the things that he will talk about? You think the army would be on board such a move?
Zakar, one, it's a little too early to say whether the army will be on board, but I think the pitch which Bilawal Bhutto is trying to do and Hina Rebani Khar are trying to do is with internal politics in mind. They're trying to position themselves as a possible alternative in the next government to Shehbaz Sharif. But let me make 2 or 3 very, very quick points. Number one, if Bilawal Bhutto comes, what media team he comes with is in our hands. We can simply not give visas to any of their media people. We are only obliged to give visas to their delegates, official delegates. So we can control the media narrative and have a narrative of our own and hit back even harder. One. Number two, I think your presumption that terror has come down in Jammu and Kashmir, I think the question to be asked is, has it come down because the Pakistanis have stopped exporting terror, or has it come down because of certain measures we have taken? Number three, what are the lessons which Pakistan has learned? I think the only lesson which Shehbaz Sharif and others in Pakistan have learned is that if you fight open wars against India, you lose those wars and you pay a very heavy price. It's better to fight proxy wars. So I think we need to be clear what lessons they've learned. Number four, if he was serious in having talks with us, he would not put the kind of riders he put. He could have just said that it's about time that we talk to India. And he could have said that, yes, we have problems and we need to talk through our problems. But this can only happen if we talk. By putting the kind of riders he has put, and by acting that unless India reverses the constitutional reforms in Kashmir, they will not talk to us.
No, that is an absolute no-go area. I mean, forget about the current BJP NDA government. Even whatever future dispensation comes, I don't think for a moment that any future government in India can go back on the abrogation of Article 370. But we'll leave it at that. We'll see. It's going to be exciting times for those who cover diplomacy. It's going to be a series of meetings between now and September. But let's talk about the other big story, the political storm across the country over the BBC documentary on the 2002 Gujarat riots. There was stone pelting last night at the JNU. There's a high-voltage drama that's erupted today at the Jamia Millia Islamia University. This is again over the screening of this docuseries. The Delhi police has detained 4 student activists of the SFI. The detentions come after the Jamia administration issued a notice asking students to refrain from screening the BBC documentary. Meanwhile, security personnel and drones have been deployed outside the campus. Remember, the centre has blocked the screenings of this documentary under Rule 16 of the IT Act.
There are 2 things. One is that there was in fact a screening that was planned at 6 p.m. Second, there was in fact 4 p.m. protest that has been called after 4 of the SFI members have been detained. Now, these students, because we are not finding any of the SFI members here, they all are at Sukhdev Vihar police station is what the students here have been saying. But there are students who are not part of SFI, not part of any such political affiliated parties, but they all have been saying that they are stuck. They are in fact the ones who are suffering because of the decision to screen the documentary. आप लोग कौन से डिपार्टमेंट से हैं अंदर जाने की?
जी मैं बीए संस्कृत डिपार्टमेंट से हूँ, फर्स्ट ईयर का स्टूडेंट हूँ। हमें तो कुछ भी पता नहीं है इसके बारे में कि बीबीसी की डॉक्यूमेंट्री होगी कि नहीं होगी, लेकिन सर्कुलेट हुई है नोटिस कि 6 बजे शाम बीबीसी की डॉक्यूमेंट्री करनी है। लेकिन हमें कुछ जानकारी नहीं थी। हमें ये जानकारी थी कि फंक्शन है रिपब्लिक की वजह से हमने अपने अपने डिपार्टमेंट में आया और फंक्शन मनाने के बाद जब बाहर आते हैं तो देखते हैं कि पुलिस की जमा हो रहा है और सारी मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया आ चुकी है यहाँ पे।
आप लोग किस चीज को लेकर लड़ाई हो रही है यहाँ पे?
हम लोग को रोक रहे हैं। They are just saying that we have order to stop a student from entering the college. That's it.
अच्छा, आप बस एंट्री लेना चाहते हैं?
There is no official notice, no written order, nothing. We don't know. I mean, a general student का जवाब कौन देगा जिसका एग्जाम छूट रहा है एंट्री परमिशन बंद होने की वजह से? इसका जवाब कौन देगा?
आपका एग्जाम चल रहा है अंदर?
हाँ, अभी बहुत सारे लोगों का एग्जाम चल रहा है, एग्जाम छूटा है बहुत से लोगों का। एडमिट कार्ड देते हैं, फिर भी रोका जा रहा है आने से अंदर। देखो आप एंट्री रुकी हुई है, आगे आप जाओ, आगे भी जाके देखो एंट्री रुकी हुई है।
पे जाना है, यहाँ से कहाँ जाना है आप लोग?
हम लोग को नहीं जाना, बाहर से किसी को आने नहीं दे रहे अंदर। We are here to collect our admit card, but they are not giving us permission to enter us.
And you have nothing to do with this?
No, we don't have any reason. We don't have any reason. We don't know anything. They don't have any notice. उस गेट में आप बंद करो।
Good evening, hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Anusha Soni. The Pathaan movie has hit the screens and receiving much love and adulation from the fans. The film has received a grand opening, churning about 50 crores, and the cheer is expected to run through the weekend, the long weekend. Now, the movie got mired into a controversy after the song Besharam Rang had invited the wrath of some right-leaning groups and politicians. There are protests which happen in some cities across the country as well. But SRK fans are ecstatic that after 4 years, King Khan is back to the big screen. The hopes are riding high, not just for the movie, but the filmmakers in general, for the Hindi film industry that wants to get its mojo back. Will Pathaan be able to sustain the initial enthusiasm? Will the movie be able to end the jinx of the pandemic for the Hindi film industry? All that and much more on the biggest exclusive tonight.
Shah Rukh Khan has made a high-octane comeback to theatres with the action entertainer Pathaan, which has set box office registers clanging. King Khan has displaced KGF 2 to become the second highest in terms of advance booking, second only to Bahubali 2. 5.56 lakh tickets have been sold in advance for the first day, and with the film becoming a festival with spectacles of fans dancing and cheering across the nation, SRK might be clocking his highest opening day numbers yet.
See, a star can ensure the first day's opening. After that, it is the merits of the film. Looking to the advance booking, we can safely predict that it will be one of the best openings. And therefore, the test for Shah Rukh Khan is already over and done with, in the sense he has passed with